on to the president and a senator from Pennsylvania. The serious health questions around Senator John Fetterman and President Biden just don't get asked these days, and they are serious questions. Fetterman's chief of staff tweeted out these pictures of the senator at Walter Reed Hospital. He's been there for 2 weeks. John is well on his way to recovery, says the Post, about a man who can barely communicate without closed captioning and checked himself in for severe depression. Senate's been in session 26 days this year. Fetterman has missed, as of now, 11 days. That's more than 42%. For the fourth time in his presidency, Mr. Biden took a significant stumble on the stairs to Air Force One. And of course, running up the stairs isn't in the presidential job description, but his verbal stumbles often now are matching his physical ones. Both Fetterman and Biden bring up important questions, but ones that are taboo to ask. Colby Hall is here, unbalanced resident philosopher, founding editor of Mediaite, America's premier website for the news about the news. Colby, it's good to see you. How did it get that we can't talk about these really important questions?
That's a great question. I think it's a slow evolution or de-evolution about language and meaning. I mean, phrased another way, you could ask, how do you exactly judge someone's ability in any job in an age of ableism, right? Like, I feel bad for John Fetterman, and clearly President Biden has struggled historically with stuttering, and he's old. I mean, he's 80, and he looks the part. That said, are they able to do the jobs? I wouldn't compare the two. I mean, obviously, John Fetterman suffered a stroke and is checked himself into a hotel or a hospital because of depression. But it's really sort of nuts that an NBC reporter interviewed Fetterman for the first time after a stroke before his debate and reported that he wasn't really fluid thinking or speaking, and she caught a lot of hell.
Yeah.
And really unfairly, I thought, and I defended her.
And we did as well. I guess the flip side of this, though, is that when Donald Trump gingerly walked down a ramp at West Point, nobody had any trouble questioning his abilities, his cognitive abilities, or anything else about him, or his physical abilities. I'm wondering if it's too much of a stretch to say that members of the media have been bullied effectively by a certain political party into not being able to ask it. You said ableism, but you can't talk about anything involving race, or you can be called racist. It's racism, sexism, you're transphobic, you're homophobic, you're all of these things that now have silenced really important conversations.
I think, to be clear, it's less a partisan issue. It's a generational and progressive issue. And you see, I have a lot of friends who are extremely left-wing, and they complain about the closed-mindedness of conservatives. And yet I have to point out that they're every bit as closed-minded because they limit this language. So yes, it's not really a Democratic Party. It's mostly a progressive party, and the limits of language, which, almost feels like a Vonnegut novel of like, just, you can't say anything for fear of, everyone's going to run around mute. And I will say also, not all media outlets are ignoring this. You're right to say that some, namely progressive mainstream media outlets, were quick to jump all over Trump's, trying not to slip down the ramp at West Point. But conservative outlets talk about Fetterman and Biden's mental acuity a lot.
Right. No, that's a fair point. I think, though, you can't deny sort of a double standard in the cultural conversation in America. As evidenced by Saturday Night Live. Gerald Ford slips down Air Force One steps. It cost him the presidency. Sarah Palin, defined by Saturday Night Live, I can see Russia from my house, which she never said, but that's how we all remember her. And Joe Biden and John Fetterman are completely untouched.
Well, I think you're right. I think that it's the difference I would suggest is that one is Biden is 80 years old, so it's tough. It's a tough question. And Fetterman, clearly, it doesn't seem, but, he just suffered a stroke. So there is, to your point, I can't disagree with you. Yes, there is a clear double standard. If people are still refraining from questioning Fetterman's ability, say 6 months from now, it's hard to imagine him continuing, and also the sort of stifled language continuing as well, because it just defies common sense.
Thanks for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to subscribe. Click the red button to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.